Hello, 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 and welcome back to my channel. Or if it's your first time here, welcome. Today, we're going to do a story time. Woo woo, fun, fun, fun. Oh, I have so many stories to tell because I am a narcissist. Well, I am in the process of remedying this, but I still can't help the fact that I attract narcissists. And why I started this channel in the first place, the whole reason is because I have a library of experiences dealing with narcissists. Now, they might not have, let me just issue the full disclosure, full blown narcissistic personality disorder because it is on a spectrum. But when I share these experiences, I do definitely want to say they have the characteristics of narcissism. Okay, so that's why I choose to share certain stories. Now, this particular experience was a very brief relationship. My dog just deciding to play with his toy as soon as I started recording this. He's so funny. That's what the squeaky noise is in the background. He wants to join in on the fun. This particular relationship, I think he's definitely just a classic narcissist. I'm not really quite sure. I haven't even thought about which bucket to put him in. Maybe you can decide after I tell you this experience. I'm sorry, I have like a hair in my eye. I'm just a hot mess, but I just want to share this story, so I'm just going to work through it, right? I have a hair in my eye and it's driving me nuts today. So, I met this guy through a friend, which automatically gave him a pass into my life because we had a mutual friend, and so started talking to him, and right away, what helped me gain trust in this person because he was mirroring me. Now, of course, back then, this was back in 2015-ish. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know mirroring was a thing, right? So I noticed, the traumatic reenactments in my life. When I look back and look at the patterns, I see that, I was really attracted to people that were like me. I was really attracted to people that love bombed me. I was really attracted to these narcissist patterns of relationship. And he was no exception. So he mirrored me. At the time, I was, celibate. I've been a Christian for a long time. I was a Christian. So, of course, he presented himself as a celibate Christian. Oh, perfect. Oh my gosh, he's just like me. He was a musician. Well, music has been my life for a very long time. I used to be involved in the music business. So, wow, another box checked. Got something else in common, music. He's a gospel music. Well, I don't want to give too much away about this person, but he was in the gospel music industry. So, another box check because not only is he a musician, but he's in the gospel industry. Not saying that they get a pass for being better than secular music because a lot goes on in the gospel industry that's just as bad as secular music. Trust me, I know because I've been in the background of those things. But still, he's a Christian, into the gospel music industry, tours with gospel artists. It's checking some boxes. He claims to be into celibacy, which was important for me. Oh, I'll give him a pass. See what he's all about. Well, I didn't know. Because, when I first started dating someone, I kind of like to do little background checks because I'm like the FBI. I am a little investigator. I mean, I've busted, literally helped bust Russian crime rings in my past life. So, of course, it's not hard to do a little background check on someone I'm dating. Not saying I'm doing a full-blown background check, But just a little Googling, look up some criminal past, look to see if they're married, things, little basic checks. Well, I'm doing all that. He seemed to check out. Well, let's just start the story by saying he gave me the wrong middle name. So I wasn't even doing checks on the right person. Nice strategy. Not the first time a narcissist has done that. My own husband did that, which I have the testimony on my YouTube channel, but he didn't give me the wrong middle name, but he just went by his middle name as his first name when I met him. Another way to throw me off the track. So when I asked around about, hey, do you know this guy? No, I never heard of him. Well, because I was going by his middle name, but everyone in town knew him by his first name. That's how he did the switcheroo. But this guy, and then another narcissist I dated, recently actually, he also went by his middle name instead of his first name. Never even told me his first name. So when I was doing the Google checks, it was all by his first name. I mean, middle name. Same thing my ex-husband did, who was a malignant narcissist. So again, wasn't finding anything. Well, with this guy, he didn't give me his middle name as his first name. He gave me the wrong middle name because I had to know what his first and last name was, being that in the industry he was in. You know, I mean, he was a musician. So I had to really know what his first and last name was, but he gave me the wrong middle name. So when I did my Google checks, wasn't able to hunt down his criminal past. So genius of these little narcissists. Anyway, I digress, but that is going to fit into the story later on, right? Okay, so that's what we're starting off with. So we're dating. Of course, we go into phase one of a typical narcissist relationship with a narcissist, in the love bombing phase. Oh, you're my soulmate. Oh, I have this, connection to you that's just, I can just blah, blah, blah. Just I'm going to spare you the details. We'll be here all day, but just a typical soulmate love bombing nonsense that goes on in a relationship with a narcissist. Other red flag is he wanted to rush me into marriage. Like, he wanted to go from A to Z immediately. I barely knew this guy, and this was a long distance relationship. Let me say that too. He lived in California, and I lived in the Midwest. So we were literally having to travel to see each other, which, he made it happen. Just another little detail. So I couldn't totally verify all of his stories because I wasn't there. Just throwing that little detail out there too. So it made it a little easier for him to be the narcissist he was and make up his life, the details about his life, any details he wanted to. Okay, so he wants to rush me into marriage, which I wasn't really comfortable with. I mean, I've already been married, divorced, not really interested in jumping into the fire or jumping from the frying pan into the fire. I kind of wanted to take my time, but I'm letting him get excited about it or throw out his ideas and dreams. I'm listening, I'm hearing him out, but I'm still kind of being cautious and wanting to see what he's all about, right? But one of his dreams was he wanted to rush me into marriage. Like, literally, I kept saying, no, I think, we should take our time. He would just really wanted to pressure and rush me. And his dream was to move to Mexico. He, literally had all these condos picked out on the coast of Mexico. Like I said, he lived in Southern California. And I'm like, wow, that's a really big step to want to, not only get married, but move me to Mexico. And you want to do it now, right? It's so weird, but okay. I'm hearing him out, looking at his little condos, listening to his dreams. Okay, so that's his thing. He literally spent a lot of time in Mexico too, by the way. If he wasn't here or in California, he was in Mexico. Probably had another family there or something. I really have no idea. So how do I make this short? Short as possible. One thing he did, he pretended, he went through this elaborate scheme to pretend he had a house in California, like up on this hill, this like mansion basically. I won't say it's like the biggest mansion in Cali, but it was a pretty good sized house, and it was like up on this hill, and he was having all this renovation work done to it, and he had pictures of himself in this house, you know, with just regular clothes on, and a picture of some guy in the background doing work, renovation work, and it really looked like he lived there. Then he had other pictures of him looking like he lived there, like when the house was renovated. So I'm like, I really didn't even question whether he lived there or not. And I thought that one day I'd go visit and actually see the house. So, and mind you, it's not like that was a prerequisite for us being together, but I do think at my age and at his age, you should be established and have some kind of house. Should be living somewhere, and that's where I just automatically assumed he was telling the truth about that. So why would you make that up? Well, narcissists will make anything up. That's what he did. Plus, with his profession, and he really was a musician. Like, that was not made up. He worked with legitimate gospel artists, and that's what kind of gave him credit, because his flying monkeys were like gospel musicians and gospel artists, famous people supporting him like on social media and stuff. But he was a liar that didn't even have a car, lived with different women, definitely didn't have a house, but he pretended to be successful when he really wasn't. Or as successful as he portrayed himself to be. So he could attract women. He didn't have a problem attracting women at all. He definitely didn't have a problem doing that. Anyway, I digress. So what happened? One day, I'll just try to speed this up. One day, he just got through visiting me. He went back to California, and I had this moment where I actually like saw a vision. I'm not going to give you the details, but it gave me a really bad feeling in the pit of my stomach about him after he got on the plane. And I was starting to have second thoughts and like, something's not right about this guy. Like something dark, like a spirit of perversion on him. But I didn't know why I had that feeling or had that vision or where it was coming from. Oh yeah, let me back up. One time, and this might have been why I had that feeling, because I kind of had these clues planted. One time he was coming back from Mexico, and he told me that he was in California, where they have all those rides on the beach. I forgot what city that's in, where they have all those like carnival rides right on the beachfront. He was there on his way back home from Mexico one weekend, and he was taking a video of one of the rides. But when he sent it to me, I noticed that there were two shadows standing in the video. And it was like a man and a shadow of a woman standing right next to him, which would be his shadow and someone else's shadow. He was supposed to be by himself coming back from Mexico. So when he sent me that video that was supposed to be a picture of this ride, and he was just sending me videos, I was like, are you alone? Are you with someone? What do you mean? What do you mean am I alone? What kind of question is that? And I didn't even ask him why I was asking that question, but I clearly saw two shadows, and that's just directly where my eyes went when I saw this video. Like, there's clearly a woman figure standing next to you, and you could tell they were together. People don't even really think of those details when they're filming something. I mean, there might be a reflection or a shadow or something that they don't think. They just think you're looking at the ride or whatever. Anyway, it was just a clue that was implanted in my head. So that might be why I had that feeling like something wasn't totally right with him. So I'm sure those times he was going to Mexico, he was going with some girl. or what have you. And I never really got my questions satisfied. So that's probably why I had that funny feeling. Okay, and there was some other things that made me feel weird about the relationship. So I had that feeling. And then that night I went to Dairy Queen because I was craving an ice cream. I'm just sitting in line. There was this long line. I'm sitting in line and I'm just scrolling through my phone, and I happened to see another folder on Facebook that I never looked in before, and it had, messages from people you don't know on that social media platform. And I was like, what's this? And again, this was years ago. I know about the folder now. So I clicked in that folder, and there was a message in there from a girl that I didn't know. And something told me to open it. There was a whole bunch of messages in there, but that one was like from a month before or 2 months before I saw it, and it had been sitting there for a while. And I opened it up, and it was about him. And it was from the woman he was living with. But she had found out about me, and she had found out he was coming to see me in where I lived. And she was, wanting me to contact her about the situation. And I'm looking at this like, wow. So I replied and say, hey, I didn't see this. It's been sitting in here like a month or two. I can't remember how long it was sitting in my inbox, but I went ahead and replied and said, hey, yeah, I'd love to talk to you about this guy. Who are you? And, blah, blah, blah. Figure out what's going on. So we ended up talking. Found out that he had been living with her, and she wasn't even the lady in the big house with the mansion. She was someone else. Not going to really tell you a lot of details about her because she's she's not part of this video or anything, but I will tell you that me and her got to talking. We got to comparing notes. We were seeing him at the same time, involved with him at the same time. That's that. We're still cool to this day. We kind of teamed up on him, which he didn't like very much. And then when we did that, he started trying to triangulate. That's where that came in, and trying to tell me all this terrible stuff about her when I approached him about her. If you would have heard the stuff he was saying about her, it was horrible. And I'm sure it's what he was doing with her about me, because he wanted to make us enemies. Like, no, dude, you are the foul one. Don't try to turn us against each other. Like, me and her aren't dating. And I told him, I'm like, me and her, we're not together. She has no commitment to me. So I don't really care what you tell me about her. It has no relevance to me. That's your woman. And I'm your woman. You have a commitment to me, and you have a commitment to her. So you're not going to turn me against her. She doesn't have a commitment to me. So he was trying to manipulate and triangulate and turn us, into enemies, to totally take the focus off of himself. It was so bad. So anyway, we got to talking, comparing notes, find out there's a third woman involved. We reached out to her. She didn't want anything to do with it. She was totally on his side, but wanted nothing to do with it. She didn't care what we said. We were trying to help her out. Hey, you're number 3. Then we come to find out that house that he was fronting and pretending to live in and pretending that was his house. Well, that was her dead husband's house that he left her in inheritance, but she wasn't even paying on it and let it go into foreclosure. So it was actually on the market in foreclosure at that very moment. So he was living with her, and that house was her dead husband's house. So that's how the house came into the picture. Far cry from that being his house, which is what he said to me. Such a lie. Of course, he said, he said he had a car and all this other stuff. He didn't even have a car. Clearly, he didn't have anywhere to live. He didn't have a car. He's living off this woman. He's going back and forth between her house and her house. And then he's trying to drag me into the picture. Hurry up and accelerate marriage, probably so he can start living off of me and have me pay for some condo in Mexico so he can have some, probably have me put a roof over his head down there so he can go visit his family down there, which I don't know if he has a family down there or not, but I'm pretty sure he does. Why does he need to be down there so often? Well, one reason why he needs to be down there so often is because I found out later that he was doing steroids. Never in my life met someone on steroids, but this guy got caught coming back over the Mexican border with what? Steroids. Sure did. How crazy is that? But is that unusual for a narcissist? No. It is not. Not unusual. So crazy. He had one thing I'll say, people like narcissists, one red flag is they'll have bad relations with their family members. Like they'll have maybe children that they don't have good relationships with, or they don't have good relationships with their exes, or there'll be some kind of strained relationships. That's always a red flag with them. Now, I know that can happen in life, but it's always a thing with them. It's a red flag. So watch out for that. Well, this guy was going through some terrible custody battle with his ex-wife. So when I finally, one day on his social media, I noticed someone call him by a different name. So it caught my eye. This is before we broke up. It caught my eye and I put it in the back of my head. So this was in the back of my head when we did break up. I had this name that I filed away. Like, why are they calling him this name? This other name? That's not his name. That came useful later. Another thing about social media, and I'm going to tell you that in a minute. Another thing about social media with narcissists, what they'll do is they'll play games with their social media. Like he was really big on social media. He would, what I learned once I started talking to his other girlfriend, he would restrict his audiences. So he'll have an audience that I would be in and certain people with me. And then he'll have an audience that she would be in that I wouldn't be in. So he can make his posts with her or about her or have her involved in, and then I'd be restricted from it, or he'd have to post with me that she'd be restricted from. So we had no idea about each other. And that's the kind of games that a narcissist will do with social media. They'll restrict their audiences. And they'll just play games. They have all the time in the world to play games with people. It's so crazy. Okay, so back to the name that popped up, that kept popping up. These are people that have known him like since childhood or whatever, or people that followed his music career and knew what his real name was. So they were calling him by his middle name. But at the time, I was like, who is it? Why do they keep calling him that? And then it occurred to me one day out of the blue, after we broke up, this name was still in the back of my head. So I thought, why were they calling him that? That's probably his real middle name. Let me try to Google. Now, nobody told me this. I just tried it. Let me try to Google that as his middle name and see if I get a hit on my Google search. Boom! This fool had a criminal background. And it was bad. Excuse me. I'm still dealing with bronchitis. Trying to push through it. He had a criminal background, y'all. The worst kind. A big old scandal in the church. That's all I'm going to say about that. Now, if I would have known about the extent of the criminal background, I would have never been talking to this guy. That's why I lied about his middle name. That's what a narcissist does, right? Next. Not only was his middle name useful in figuring that out, But I also was able to find his marriage license. So when I did that, I was able to do more digging and find out he was never even divorced. So I thought he was divorced and he's up here trying to marry me, but he was still married. Now they weren't together, but this fool was still married. So you're polygamous? Trying to add wives? Like, he literally thought he was above the law and could do whatever he wanted. And that's what he was trying to do with me. It was the craziest thing ever. I don't know if I'm missing anything. I could be missing something. I'm not sure. But I think that's enough. I think that's enough to share with y'all for now. He was definitely a narcissist. And I'm sure he's off doing this with the new people somewhere else. I don't know. I mean, I blocked him. I haven't had any contact with this person since then. And they didn't come back and try to hoover me. Well, first of all, they're blocked, but they didn't try to find me again. And they knew where I lived. They didn't show up at my door or anything like that because they were so busted on every level imaginable. They had to be too humiliated to even try to come back. And they had their flying monkeys doing their bidding, of course, because like I said, he's a musician, and that part was legit, because that's one of the first things I verified when I met him. I don't take things for face value when I meet people. It's one of the first things I verified, so that is the only true thing. And being that he is, like I said, that's how he had people on his corner, and that's how he got his flying monkeys. But everything else, crap. Total narcissist. And you'll meet people that are total narcissists. That might be athletes or actors or musicians or rappers or singers or businessmen or politicians. I've dated politicians that are narcissists. I've dated athletes that are narcissists. I've dated people in corrections and police officers that are narcissists. I mean, those particular professions attract narcissists. So it's not a stretch to find people like that in those professions. I don't know. Maybe I need to go date a dog catcher or something. Anyway, I just thought I'd share that story for a little bit of amusement, but as a learning experience and to show you the patterns, how they play out in a relationship with a narcissist, how they can play out, why I have this channel, because I have so much experience with narcissists. I mean, and that's not even the only one. There's so many. I could be here all day telling you about all my narcissists in my history. That one relationship only lasted a few months. Thank the Lord. Thank the Lord for shining the light on the situation. I mean, I'm so blessed, immensely blessed for being rescued from that situation. And thanks to my friend, my new friend, for contacting me and telling me, hey, that's my boyfriend. Oh, I didn't know. I mean, that was a blessing. You know what? I do want to say this. When you have a woman reach out to you, I mean, sometimes they might, be trying to start trouble. Sometimes, yeah, maybe they're not telling the truth. But don't take it out on the woman, address it with your man. Sometimes it could be the biggest blessing ever. And we need to stop attacking each other as women and sometimes come together on things like this. Sometimes it can be the biggest blessing ever for someone to reach in and snatch you out of a situation you don't need to be in. So don't take it out on her. Some people want to sit there and take it out on the other woman and want to fight the other woman or go off on her if she reaches out to you, or get mad or jealous or bitter with the other woman. Don't do that. Hear her out. She might be saving your life. Okay? Anyway, thanks for listening. I really enjoyed telling my little story today. I'll be back with another one, I'm sure. But if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or if you can relate or have been through a similar experience, feel free to comment below. Thanks, and have a great day, morning, noon, night, whenever you're listening to this. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.